Hey everyone. No. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Jet.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Kira.
Nice to meet you, Kara. I saw your posting. So, which homework assignment were you looking for repairing?
I'm just working on homework 2, the Hangperson SAS little game with Sinatra.
Right. Okay. Yeah, me too. But I'll have to say I'm just getting started with it. I've done part 0, kind of the setup stuff, but struggling with the first main step to it.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's where I'm at too. I just literally started my workspace up, so I mean, maybe we can just get started. And if you want, we could work on yours. Like, you could share your link if you want, and we can pair a little bit.
Sure.
Cool.
Let me. So you want me to get my workspace going here?
It's up to you. I have one, but it's whatever. I mean, same assignment, I guess. I'm not sure how the pairing works. Like, I think if you upload a video pairing on, like, even if we're pairing on technically your project, I think that should still be fine.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I've done the pairing once before, and we kind of struggled through it a bit. What can you see from my side? Anything?
Nothing yet. Let me share my screen though.
Okay.
Maybe you'll have to share your screen as well. On the left, there's like a little green arrow.
Right. I got it. Yep. So entire screen, I'll share.
There we go. Yeah, so now I see your screen. I see the introduction and everything.
Okay, so that's actually, I can see your screen. So I wonder if I'm sharing you're sharing, what does your screen look like?
I think they're the same. Let me see. Okay. Yeah.
This doesn't look like my screen. I'm guessing, oh, well, wait, maybe I'm wrong. Let's see, what do you see now?
There we go. So now I see your Cloud9 environment.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think at the bottom right, you can sort of switch between my screen and your screen. I think that's how it works.
Okay. And so I'm looking at my screen right now, and I don't see any of the other controls for sharing. Let's see, what do I need to do?
Yeah, it's in like a separate window.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out how I actually find, oh, it's a separate window up here. Okay, got it. So, well, no, that's not it. It's that. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. So that's my screen. No, wait,
Okay.
that's, sorry.
I think it's my screen. Now the question is, I need to do something, I thought, to start the session, or maybe you already did that?
Yeah, so you can invite me to the Cloud9 session if you want to work on your project. On the top right of the Cloud9 interface, there's a little
Right.
button called Share.
Okay.
So if you send me that link, then basically we can work on the exact same files at the same time.
Okay. So let me find this. My cat's investigating my lunch here. Let me see. Where did that screen go? This is the Google Hangout screen, right?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. So exactly.
But
It's really confusing because
I think am I looking at your screen?
yeah. So exactly. I think this what you're seeing is my screen. But
Yeah.
you go to this little share button, and then that link there, copy it and send it to me, and then I can have access to your Cloud9 like workspace.
Got it. So I'm just trying to find out where that screen is.
Okay, so I think you had it. So there's the Google Hangout. That's like the share screen. So
yeah,
now,
and that's yours, because I can't actually click on anything on that screen. That's actually your screen, I think.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you actually want to switch tabs and go to your Cloud9. Oh, we have some grid section here.
Yeah, so I just clicked on my window as the one being, okay, now so you're talking about here, do a share?
Exactly, yeah. So right next to that, click on share.
Let's see, I clicked on share. This is my Cloud9. Is it within Cloud9 that you do click on?
Yeah, so that's the settings. So now just click on like actually the word share.
Oh, the word share, I got it. Okay.
Exactly, there we go. Now that first link.
First link.
The editor, copy, and then you can send that to me in like the group chat in the Hangouts tab.
Okay. So I need to start a chat session, I guess. I don't really understand why it says window inside of window inside of window.
It's sort of, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. So
is that because you're screen sharing at the same time I'm screen sharing, or?
I wonder if maybe I'm sharing the wrong screen. There we go. Yeah, that's sort of weird.
Because I have to come back to this screen in order to get a chat session going, so I can click on the chat, but it's still
exactly. But I see. I think I see what you're seeing, like the weird, like. Okay, maybe if I stop sharing my screen, that'll help. I don't know. Yeah, exactly, because I need that link.
Yeah, whenever I click on the screen to show my Hangouts, it actually.
Yes.
Do I need to stop sharing my screen, maybe?
Maybe turn it off and on again, and maybe it'll sort of reset. That's pretty crazy.
Share, let's see. No, it comes back, it does the same thing every time I start to share it.
Weird.
Let me see if I can start a chat session or something. Go ahead and paste this in, please.
Yeah.
Can you actually see my Cloud9 link? Or is
Yeah,
that?
there we go. Perfect. I got it. So yeah, I'm in. And I think in a second here, you'll get a request for me to edit the files.
Got it.
There we go.
Does that come up within Cloud9 or?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, let me go back to Cloud9 then. Do you see anything on your side?
So I'm still, it says I'm in read-only mode, so I'm requesting access.
Okay.
And I think maybe it'll be like in the collaborate little tab. I'm not sure where the request shows up.
Okay, I do see a collaborate, and I do see a little, there it is, got it, yeah. All right.
All right, yeah, there we go. So now I have access to edit, so we can get started.
Perfect, so let's see, how do I close this, I guess preferences, just close that. So can you see, you can see everything on my screen, Cloud9 environment, etc.?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so where did you leave off? Did you do sort of the setup stuff?
Yeah, so I literally just cloned the repo and just sort of got the basic setup.
Okay.
So yeah, sort of I think we're at maybe the same sort of space.
Yeah, and there was the descriptions here. This is the one that I had done, demystifying SaaS app creation.
Right, right. Yeah, so I've read through this briefly, but I haven't actually, yeah, so I've done the bundler. I haven't actually created the app. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering whether we should, given that you haven't done that, well, we could do one of two things. Either continue with mine and then you'll need to go back and do that yourself.
Yeah, maybe we could work on yours a little bit, and then yeah, just sort of go from there. Like if you want to sort of pick up wherever you're at.
Okay.
Started with a little bit of the stuff, and then yeah, we can go from there.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you where I was basically at the beginning, and I was reading the instructions for part 2, or part 1, I should say. And it sort of just gives you an overview of what's happening here. Let's see. And I was kind of starting to, just try to figure out, well, what statements do I need to add to the application in order to start passing these tests? And I have to say, I'm kind of confused by this whole thing. In the sense that I'm looking at the tests themselves. So you sort of look at the test and you go, oh, okay, well, based on that, what the test is telling me, that's going to help guide my development, right?
Right.
And I'm looking at the test, and I immediately, I've been exposed to TDD, but I've never really done it. So I'm looking at this first thing here, describe new, thinking, okay, well, I turned off that first. Well, let me step back and say that all the tests right now are sort of put into pending mode. And so what you do is the very first test, you go and you say, okay, no longer pending, I'm going to start working on this one test. So that first test is going to fail.
Right, exactly.
So now I'm looking at this first thing, and first question I had to myself, wait a minute, is describe new, is that a method called new and I need to create that?
I think that's the idea. So exactly. So basically it's like instantiating your game. So hangpersongame.new is going to be a new game with the word that you give it.
Okay. So it's not really a method within the Hangperson game class that I'm defining, or is it?
I guess, yeah. So I guess the method is actually going to be called initialize. So yeah, it's one of those sort of weird things about Ruby is that Yeah, it's like some class.new actually calls the method initialize. So we need to
Right.
define initialize within the Hangperson class.
Okay. Well, that's initially what I started to do, and then I started second guessing myself because every other thing in here is, you know, guessing, incorrect. Well, there are other things in here that look like they're all methods. So I thought, well, I know that new translates into, you know, the constructor, which is initialize.
Right.
But I just started second guessing myself as to whether I was doing the right thing. So let me get rid of this. Oh, I haven't started recording yet, have I? Or
I
am I
think it
recording?
goes automatically. I'm not 100% sure, but usually whenever I just stop the broadcast, I get a link to the video.
Okay. Let's see. So let me go back up to, and then I was a little confused by it's already got some code written here. So I don't know if this is like a starter.
Yeah, so the get random word, I guess that's part of just sort of part of the game to help you out with getting started, I think.
Right.
But we still have to do define the initialize method.
Right. And this is it. They've just kind of set it up for me.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
So
All right. So yeah, so I guess um
I'm not really sure where to go with this, you know? It's like,
perfect. Well, maybe we could do, yeah, so as far as pair programming goes, I don't really have a ton of experience with it, but I guess the idea is, you know, sort of one driver, one navigator. So the driver actually codes, and maybe so if you want to do that, I can try to sort of guide you with some ideas, maybe.
yeah, that sounds good.
So yeah, and then we can swap roles. So yeah, so okay, so for describe new, that's the initialize method that you're gonna have to define. So I guess the spec says takes a parameter, returns a Hangperson object. So basically, sort of on the right track. So it takes a word as a parameter, and I guess you're going to want to store that word as an instance variable because you want to have access to it later, probably.
Right. So word.
There we go. So the spec should at least.
Oh, so I need to save it first. Every time, the way it's set up is that every time you save it, I think it reruns all the test again.
Oh,
So
okay. So yeah, you have auto test on here.
yeah,
There we go. So perfect. Yeah. So now we're getting undefined method words. So that just means I guess there's no accessor for that instance variable. So you could within the class define some getter and setter methods using like the shorthand. Exactly.
header, assessor.
Exactly. So that lets you read and write, which it looks like that's what they want to do. It looks like they want to be able to set the word to something.
Okay. So that's read and writing right there. Let me save that.
Perfect. So we have some different failures now. So it also says undefined method guesses. So it's looking for a way to set guesses. So I guess you probably need an accessor for that as well.
Okay, do the same there. Header, assessor, guesses. Save.
And I guess, so since it's saying expected an empty string and got nil, so maybe you have to initialize it just to an empty string. So guesses, like right now we have an accessor for it, so a way to set it to something, but I guess you have to set it to something first. So you could just set it to an empty string, I guess, on initialize.
Okay, so you're thinking in here, just set it?
Exactly. I think that will solve this test.
Okay.
So basically,
So
you want to set it exactly as an instance variable. So that way, like the class knows, like, what do I do with this message? Guesses. Well, it's supposed to be an empty string, I guess. I don't know.
okay, like this?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we'll get one more. Exactly. So basically, you want to do the same thing with wrong guesses. and it's saying expect it to be also an empty string. So
And where are you actually seeing that message? I'm looking down here at my screen. I'm not seeing.
So just where it says expect Hangperson game dot wrong guesses to equal. So sort of how it works is the expectation is the sort of first half, and it's saying expect this thing equals something else, and we're expecting an empty string. And right now we're getting nothing. Well, actually, right now the method is undefined. So I guess the idea is to do the smallest step possible to sort of solve that problem.
Right.
So if you have an undefined method, wrong guesses, the easiest thing to do is define the method. So, basically another accessor, or at least a reader.
Okay. So in this case, I should do the same thing, create another.
Yeah, exactly. I think you totally got
Should I
that.
create a reader and writer in this case?
I think so. So it's one of those things, like, I guess you can sort of assume you're going to need both. Like, maybe it's good practice. I don't know. I don't really know, to be honest, if it's sort of best practice to, like, if you don't need the reader, maybe at the end of the sort of once the program's done, if you realize you don't actually need the reader, you could change that to only a writer. But
Right.
yeah, I think that's gonna work.
Okay, control save.
All right, there you go.
So that was the first test, huh?
Exactly.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I was not really sure which direction to go. I actually did all of those steps, except I guess I didn't create the assessors, so the reader and the writers, or getters and setters, and that's why it was failing.
Sure, yeah, so you're getting some undefined method errors or whatever.
Yeah, so then I thought, well, maybe these are supposed to be methods instead. Let me create them as methods.
Sure. Well, you totally can, right? Because there was a little thing about it. I guess I mean, it doesn't matter, but basically the accessor is just a shorthand, and it just defines a getter and a setter, right?
Right.
So it's those are technically like at runtime that just turns into like F word equals word. That's all it does. Like,
right. Yeah, I don't know. I knew all of those things, but somehow I was just confused by the TDD piece of it, and I couldn't seem to right the ship for some reason.
Yeah, sure. Totally. It's yeah, it's an interesting process for sure, like back and forth, back and forth. And it's I think it takes some getting used to.
Yeah, definitely. Have you done this before, or?
Just a little bit. So I recently started an internship as a developer. So still have a lot to learn though.
Well,
Yeah.
you're off to a good start.
Hope so.
And out of curiosity, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Canada, actually, in Montreal, Canada.
Okay. I picked up the Canadian accent. I wasn't sure if you were in Canada or you were somewhere in the U.S.
Okay. Where are you?
San Diego, California.
Oh, jealous.
Yeah, it's fantastic here.
That's what everybody says. That's my dream. We're gonna dream big, get good at software, move to California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Expensive, but if you value the weather,
exactly.
Emotionally, it's worth it.
Totally worth it. Exactly. It's okay here for now, but it's miserable for like 8 months of the year.
Yeah, the winters are tough, and probably it can get hot and muggy in the summer, I guess, too, huh?
Yeah, totally.
So let's see. We should probably look at the next test, and then I'll sort of turn it over sort of to you to develop the code, and I'll do whatever I can to contribute. I guess maybe the first thing we should do is get rid of the pending true.
Exactly. So let's uncomment the next test then, and go for it. So here we go.
Yep.
Okay. Does that work? Did I save it? It's not. Did I uncomment it properly? It's still got failure.
Well, you have to do a control, you have to save it. So control S on at least a Windows machine.
Okay. It's weird. It still looks like it's showing. Oh, here we go. I see. On these as well. One comment.
The screen is kind of frozen on my side.
Okay, weird.
I just see the place where you type where you're on the line 23 and there's a drop down of different methods or whatever. So I'm not sure. Well, now I see in the screen itself, but there's something, maybe my mouse is in the wrong place. Let me move it. Okay.
Is that working for you now?
Yeah, now I can see see the error message.
All right, perfect. So yeah, we can maybe swap roles. So we've got one failing test here. So there we go. Undefined method. Oh. So I'll just define the method. That's like the first thing fixed.
Was guess not one of those things where or guesses that we defined a method for already? You know, and a getter setter.
Let me undo, and see. I think it's a different, I think this is saying guess. So this is actually like guessing a letter in the word for the game.
Okay.
So we've got undefined method guess. So that's annoying. There we go.
But was the getter and setter that we defined, it must not have been guess. It must have been guesses or some other.
Exactly. It was guesses. So I guess that's a way of keeping track of the letters that you've tried already.
Right.
And then guess is like actually, I guess we're going to implement sort of checking, like actually checking the logic of the game. Like, how do you guess if a letter's present?
Right.
So I guess I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to run this in a different tab, just because it's when we're sharing the terminal, it sort of cuts off the. Can't scroll.
So is it cutting off the bash window then, or the?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you know what I see is I don't see your cursor at all anymore. I mean, normally when you're typing or moving around the screen, you would be moving around. I'd just be watching you scroll around or whatever. I don't see that right now. It's just stuck in one place for me.
Yeah. Exactly. I think it's sort of like a sharing mode where the terminal window gets like that you can't scroll when you're sharing it. I'm not sure. I think it's a limitation of Cloud9, but if yeah, see exactly. So when you resize the window, I think the maximum size is whoever has it on their side.
I see.
So
So
like
what do you see right now as I scroll around? Is it getting bigger for you, or oh no, I see there's a blank spot. So
it just gets smaller, exactly. But I think I can run them. Maybe.
can you put your cursor somewhere on the on this? I get. Are you in the? Or do you see the test? The spec.
Yeah, so I can see it, but I like here I can highlight something. I don't know if you see that.
No, I think, see that, okay, so I need to scroll down to wherever you are. I got it. Okay, so I need to scroll. It doesn't scroll automatically. When you start typing, you're down someplace off the screen. I don't see it. So I just need to constantly
Yeah.
move.
Okay, I see. So yeah, because I can't scroll the window to see the actual failure.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
So,
I wonder if, so if I change the size of it, I know sometimes if you change the size of it, people can sometimes be able to scroll and see things. Do you see anything moving now when I'm scrolling?
it's the window is getting smaller, but I can't. It doesn't actually scroll up, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Just
Can
like
you see anything if I do scroll?
no,
Okay, now I've got the scroll back right here. I can scroll. Is it scrolling for you, up or down?
no, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think I can rerun the spec in a different window. So let's see. Oh, wrong can. Okay.
Well, I can see what it did last. I'm not sure if that really is what it did last or not. I can see the last part of the screen if I can help out in that way. Let's see what it's complaining about. I'm not quite tuned in on where I should be looking for this for some reason. I see it says failed examples is the last thing, and then it failed examples, and then it lists a number of things that failed, I guess. Line 28, 77, 80, 83. Says Hangperson game guessing correctly changes correct guess list. I don't know if that's maybe that's the comment inside of the spec.
I think so. So yeah, here if I run the, I don't know if you can see like the screen share. There we go. I can run the spec in a different window, and then I can scroll up and see the actual errors. So we've got a bunch of pending still.
Did you open up a different tab?
Yeah, so I think in Cloud9, I don't think it will show you, but in the screen there, you can see you can actually see the error. So we've got, for example, Hangperson guessing correctly changes the correct guess list.
Right.
So guess, basically the first error we're getting is guess takes an argument. So a letter.
Is that based on that error message that you just read to me?
Exactly, yeah. So if you scroll up after the in the RSpec output,
okay,
and then you can sort of see the more detailed failures.
Okay, I'm scanning up looking for, this thing is one continuous, every time you run it, it's just runs again and again and again, and so it just keeps piling up the output. It's sometimes hard to see exactly where to look.
Yeah, for sure. It gets sort of cluttered, I guess.
Yeah, there's no way to say like clear to clear out the screen. So I'm not sure if I've passed the message.
It should be relatively recent.
And I wonder if it's a specific changes correct guess list. Yeah. I'm just not really sure. Let's see, failures, valid equal at valid equal at game.guess.
I think that's it, exactly. So this is that's the failure that we can fix next. So where it says argument error, wrong number of arguments, was given 1, expected 0. That's what our spec's telling us, is that the method guess in the test was called with an argument, so a letter. But in our implementation, right now it doesn't support taking an argument. So we just have to add an argument.
Are you on the actual code itself now?
Now I am, yeah. So now in the Hangperson game.
Okay. Got it. It's unfortunate that it doesn't switch around because I can't tell where you are necessarily, Yeah,
it's not ideal. The screen sharing sort of is, it's a little buggy for sure.
Yeah.
So there we go. So if we save that and then check what the next error is. Now
so I see 3 error messages at the very bottom of the screen. Is that what you see as well?
Exactly, yeah. So then if you scroll up a little bit, you can see sort of a more detailed message.
And am I looking, because there are numbers besides all of these, am I looking directly above those last 3 error messages?
Slightly, yeah, so exactly. So right above the error messages, it says like 18 examples, 3 failures, 14 pending.
Got it, yeah.
It goes up and up, so it goes like 3, 2, 1, and it lists the specific errors, or the specific failures. So if we look at failures, and the first one there, so Hangperson game, guessing correctly changes correct guess list. That's the failure we can fix right now.
I need to figure out how to do this because I'm looking up and I do see red sprinkled throughout the input as I'm going up, but I can't quite tell where let's see, maybe this is, you seem to be able to zoom in exactly on where you need to look. I guess if I go back to the beginning of this last output, I'm seeing some stuff here.
One thing that might be helpful, if we do, what you can do is Command K, and that does sort of, I think what you're looking for, like sort of clear the screen. So I'll do it here. So if you do Command K, you get an empty screen.
Yeah, it doesn't do it on my side, but maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. Okay, so I just did Control K on my machine, and now I can't scroll up, unfortunately.
Right, so if we rerun the specs, it should rerun them, and then maybe you can scroll.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, so now I can see maybe at the top, and it says, correctly, let's see, changes correct guest list, failed.
Exactly. So that's the one that failed. And if you scroll down a little bit, past all the pending ones, so past all the yellow stuff.
Got it, yeah.
And stop at the first, like sort of red block there under failures.
Yeah, got it.
There you go. So that's how you know sort of which specific one failed.
Okay, so that's kind of like immediately above the error messages. That's where I wasn't sure.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. So it's listed under failures, and it says expected A.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's sort of where you can check for sort of like a more meaningful failure message instead of just like the spec failed. So
Right.
what it's saying is that after we call guess, it's expecting us to add that letter to the guesses list.
Okay.
So I guess what we can do is do letter and shovel it into, actually I think it's the other way around. Guesses, letter. There we go. So I'm not sure if you can see what I just wrote in the
Yeah, I actually can. I'm just trying to, I couldn't come to that conclusion as to that was what was needed as quickly as you could. So
no worries. So this
what drove you to that decision? Because all I see is failures expected A, and I don't see anything that really tells me how you came to the conclusion that needed to go. You needed to put the letter in guesses.
Yeah, so basically what it's saying is, so I guess, yeah, it's not entirely clear, but if you look at what the spec is doing is it's calling guess on our game. So it does like hangperson game.new, and then it calls guesses, or sorry, guess with a letter on that game. And so what it's saying is, after we call guess, it's expecting the guesses array or string to equal A, so A or whatever letter we passed it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, after we make a guess, we need to remember what letter we tried.
Got it. Okay, yeah, so you're getting that out of the spec, more or less.
So that and a little bit of context also of like how the game works.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I don't know, I guess, yeah, does that make any sense? Like,
yeah, it does. Now that I'm looking at the spec and seeing what it's actually failing on, I was on the code side of it. Now I'm looking at the spec, I can see it's failing because it didn't get an A. That's what it's expecting.
yeah, it's an interesting process, like back and forth for sure. There's siren going on here.
Okay, so what did we get as a failure this time?
So the next failure.
In-person guessing correctly returns true.
Yeah, so where's the failure? Returns true. So I think it's supposed to return true, and it's not.
Right, so let's see now, how does that, oh, returns true. So it's on to the next one then. In the spec itself, there were, associated with that last failure that we had, it said at game dot, well, it says expect at game dot guesses to equal to A. So we solved that part of it, right, by shoveling it into guesses.
Exactly.
But what about the next one? Because it looks like the one that it's referring to now is actually, yeah, down the, oh, it's a pending one that hasn't run.
So yeah, I guess I'm not 100% sure how the pending works. So let's delete the pending.
Because I would have expected the next line to complain about is this one that you're, this one right here, right? Expect at game dot wrong guesses to equal. I would have expected that would be the next failure we'd be trying to address.
I think so. I think you're right, except that it's already an empty string. So because wrong guesses, because we initialized it to be an empty string, and in this case, we're testing the scenario, the context where we guessed correctly. The wrong guesses doesn't actually change.
Got it.
So, but I think you're right. So that is something to think about. Like, I guess we're obviously not writing the specs for this one, but when you do write the specs, it is important to test like both the right outcome and the wrong outcome. Like you would expect, like you were saying, you would expect wrong guesses to change as well if you guessed incorrectly.
Right. And then I'm puzzled as to if you had not removed the pending, why we actually saw a failure on that next item.
Yeah, that is a little weird. So, because that's the thing, I delete all the pendings on that context, and then we get rid of the failures. So, I think that might just be sort of a weird thing about our spec.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess we could go ahead and remove the next pending. So it changes the wrong guesses list. So this is a scenario where you guess a wrong letter, and guesses shouldn't change, but wrong guesses should. So I'll delete that pending and run it. And this one might be a little bit more challenging, but did you want to implement it?
Yeah, I could try. I'm still, I think, just sort of struggling a little bit with this whole thing, but let's see, where are we? This is the development. So what are we actually trying to address here?
So now if we see that last failure message, so yeah, if you scroll up a little bit just to sort of directly above those failure messages,
yeah,
you see expect game.guesses to equal an empty string.
Yeah, I see expected and then just empty string, but I'm not sure what it's referring to in that context.
Right, so then right above that, you see the failure/error.
Not really. I mean, I see the failures where it's at the very bottom where it says Hangperson guessing incorrectly, changes wrong guess list. And then the next thing, if I go up and I see under failures, it just says expected : empty string, and then got : Z. But it doesn't come tell me what it's complaining about. I mean, I know what's wrong. I know what it's complaining about, but I don't know the context of it.
Yeah, that's weird. Maybe, do you want to try sharing your screen again so I can see what you see?
Sure.
I'm not sure if it'll work because maybe we'll get that weird Windowsception thing again, but maybe not.
Let's see. So screen share. And that's me right now. So share. Yeah, we get the window inside of a window.
Oh god. Okay, so I don't know what's wrong with that, but it's not working obviously. So I wonder, maybe if you take Google Hangouts out of this browser, like, do you know what I mean? Sort of pull the tab out.
Yeah.
maybe that's, there we go. So I think maybe,
Maybe just hide that or something, bring it down to the bottom of the screen.
sure, yeah. So
Oh, but wait, what's it doing now? I thought I just took, oh, so let me minimize this tab and go back to the other.
yeah, so there we go. So now I can see your screen exactly. So there, can you scroll up at all?
Yeah. So, but you see what I'm talking about under failures?
Yeah,
I don't know what you're
exactly.
seeing, but
It's not a
top of
very
the
helpful
screen just
message.
says expected, and then it doesn't give me any context like what was expecting.
Totally. That is different than what I see. Like I'm not sure if you can see on my screen, but what I see is this. So I see like failures, and then it says one Hangperson game guessing incorrectly, changes wrong guess list.
No, I don't see that at all. Mine's just the red error messages
That is,
floating.
it is weird. Maybe,
And so, do you see when I'm scrolling around? Do you see in the window in
yeah,
the
yeah, I can
dash window?
see that. So
And you actually see these sort of just floating red comments
yeah,
here.
yeah, that is unusual for sure. It's different than the normal output that I see.
Okay.
Yeah, so because you're sort of like you're missing the, because see it says two Hangperson game guessing whatever, but there's no one. So normally there's like a nice little message that would explain that sort of red output.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that is weird.
Makes it kind of hard for me to really appreciate what it's complaining about if I just get kind of the raw
Totally,
message.
totally. Maybe that's weird. Maybe if you try, I don't know. Maybe like try closing this terminal window and starting a new one. I'm not sure though, because yeah. So for example, on the screen that I see, I get sort of a more useful uh, like failure message.
Okay, let me try refreshing. I don't know if that will have anything, will
Maybe.
do anything. Well, I don't know. All I see now is the Cloud9. Let's see, did it come back?
Okay, there you go.
There we go.
So now do you see the little failure error expect?
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's still not that helpful, but it's that's at least what the expectation is. So now you can see.
So, okay, so it's expecting that the game dot guesses to equal.
To equal an empty string. So basically, the problem with our implementation right now is that there's no logic. It's just whenever you guess, it puts the letter into the guesses array. So, or a string, I guess. So what we actually want is we want to check if that letter is in the word. And then if it is, then we add it to the guesses. If it's not, then we add it to the wrong guesses.
Got it. Okay. Let me ask you a question about this syntax. So I guess also what's throwing me off a little bit is this whole, referencing the instance variable, and then looks like it's a method being called on that instance variable. For some
Right.
reason I'm having a problem with that. I don't quite get that.
So you mean where it does like expect at game dot guesses?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe if you look so sort of above that in the before, so it is sort of tricky because in the course we sort of if they haven't done a lot of stuff about RSpec yet. It just so happens I've used RSpec before, so it is definitely like this is sort of a tricky way I think to be introduced to it. But once you use it a little bit more, it'll become sort of more normal. But basically, like RSpec is a testing framework, so everything in here is like a fake test scenario.
Right.
So just in the before block, so what that's saying is like before the spec, before the expectation, set this stuff up. So it's saying the game, so at game, just for this test case, is the hangperson game.new with that word. And then in the expectation where the test actually runs, we want the game dot guesses to equal an empty string. So this is like how you would actually run the game on the command line. You would do like hangperson game.new and pass it a word, and then you would do game.guess with a letter. And
yeah, just the syntax of an instance variable followed by a dot method is sort of, I don't know, is that standard Ruby?
yeah, so so do you come from another programming language?
Yeah, but for some reason I'm just having a mental block with this particular syntax. For some reason, I certainly am familiar with, you know, you have a variable and then you call a method by saying dot method. I'm just not used to kind of seeing it with the instance variable like this, so it's throwing me off for some reason.
Yeah, totally. I think it is sort of unusual, but it is like Ruby's kind of weird in that way that like everything is an object and any action is a method. So like anytime you want to do anything to an object, you're calling a method on that object.
Right.
So it's just like in this this environment, so like where the test is running, the variable at game. So I think I see what you mean. Like it is sort of weird. The at game it's like an instance variable of the test case.
Yeah.
So we have access to it that way.
Okay.
So yeah, it is sort of weird, but
something's throwing me off about that. I'm not used to really seeing instance variables and then with a method called against the instance variable that I can think.
I think it's totally normal because it is sort of weird, and I think it's sort of something that probably is sort of a peculiar case that you'll see in RSpec. So it's sort of like kind of like manipulating the language a little bit, like abusing it a little bit, so that we can do it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So let's see. Where is the actual spec that we're looking at? Is it this line 22 or?
So the actual failure is line 41. So you can see that at the very end of the test output. It'll tell you exactly what line failed.
Let's see. Yeah, line 41. Got it. So changes wrong guess list. That's the description of the test that we're running, right?
Exactly. And then you can see so that's within the context of an incorrect guess.
Okay, so let me scroll up a little bit. So context is incorrectly. So you're guessing incorrectly. Okay.
Exactly. So yeah, so RSpec's a little bit, it can become sort of a puzzle, which is one thing I'm not a fan of, because like you get so sort of far away from the like these things, you can get a lot of like nesting going on like this, but basically we have like the describe guessing and then the context incorrectly and then the actual expectation. So the expectation is that it changes the wrong guess list.
Got it. Okay.
So now that that's failing, does that make any more sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. Thank you for that clarification. That helps a lot.
No worries.
So so let me go back to the code itself. So what do we have so far? So far we've just got a guess and we've just automatically slammed it into the guesses.
Exactly. So that's obviously not going to work because there's no logic there. It's just like every time we guess, it just gets crammed in. So yeah, so we're going to need some way to tell if it's a good guess or a bad guess. And then
so what do we have to work with in that context then? What
so
we have wrong guesses. So that's a method where we're gonna keep all the wrong guesses that they've made, and I guess these are letters at a time, right? Each guess is a letter.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. So basically, you want to check. You take the letter that they give you, and then check it against the word, and then depending on whether it's in the word or not, you add it to either guesses or wrong guesses.
Got it.
So might be a good case for like a regular expression. You could check if, I'm not 100% sure how to implement that, but it sounds like that would be a good use case for like checking if one letter is in a word.
Right.
Is, you know, sort of like what regular expressions are for, so.
Right, and then the question is, what's the structure of that? The other thing is that I wonder, so is guesses, what kind of structure is that? Is it defined anywhere to be like an array or
So it's initialized as an empty string.
as an empty string?
So it's
Okay.
going to end up as just, I guess, a string of words. So yeah, maybe this isn't the best. You could also do like, you can do plus equals to add the letter to guesses. So that's like sort of one of the weird things about Ruby is like, yeah.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
I'm not really a regular expression kind of guy. I mean, I've just sort of learned a little bit about regular expressions. I
Yeah.
tend to be honest with you, I tend to do things in a way that's probably more brute force, like, for example, taking the string and, using a method against that string that tells me whether or not another value is already in that string.
Yeah, you could totally do that. There's a method, I think it's called include question mark or includes, but you could totally do that. You could check the word and then see if that includes the letter that they gave you.
Right. So let's see. So the current so word is what we're talking about here, right?
So exactly. So word is the word that you want to check the letter against.
Right. So I'm just trying to think of what is that. So word dot include question mark and then something like letter.
Yeah, exactly. So and now what's that going to return?
It's probably going to return a Boolean, right?
Exactly. So you're going to get true or false, and then based on that, you want to add the letter to the right like string. So either guesses or wrong guesses, depending on the outcome of that check.
So I sometimes will not do things in the best way from a Ruby perspective, but so there might
Practice
be a
comes
better.
later.
Maybe if maybe I just say, well, I don't know. I tend to do things traditional if statements. If this is true, then go ahead and add this to the letter to guesses, else.
Totally. That's totally valid Ruby. I think that's a awesome implementation. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's all the other stuff is just like style preferences. So like
Yeah. I don't tend to oftentimes like, oh, I can use the if statement at the end of the logic in order to, to accomplish the same thing. You know what I mean?
right, like poetry mode, like you was talking about.
Yeah. So we can certainly redo this.
Sure.
Let's see, plus equal,
Yeah.
plus equal. I'm all about refactoring if we need to do that because there's a better way of doing it. And
Sure. But yeah, no, that's an awesome approach. Just like do it and make it work, and then you can worry about changing it later. And the other thing, it's so early, like in the course, like once you do like a ton of Ruby programming, you might come up with like personal preferences, but that's all it really is. When people say like, oh, you should write it like that or write it like this, it's really just personal preference. It's not that it's wrong,
Yeah, I just don't always think immediately in sort of Rubyese and putting ifs at the end of my logic. So
Sure.
Is this what we want to accomplish? We want to put the letter in if it's a correct guess, and if not, put it in the wrong guesses category?
I think that'll work, yeah. So we could try the specs, try the test again and see, but I'm pretty sure that's what you want. So you want to see, I mean, exactly, yeah. So we can remove the, also get rid of the pending.
So did it pass, and how do you know that immediately by looking at this input?
So I actually don't know if it passed. So for me, the little auto, there we go. Okay, so we're getting undefined method plus for nil.
Let me see. Oh, undefined method plus for nil class. Oh, okay.
Maybe that's not the right way to add a letter to a string. Maybe.
Well, you can just do a plus, right?
Exactly.
Sorry,
I think that's just the wrong syntax.
let me try this.
Yeah, so close. So
what's it complaining about now? Oh, I'm trying to add something to a nil class. Am I supposed to be using at guesses here?
you shouldn't have to because you have the accessor, but
Yeah.
expect. Okay, so guessing correctly changes the correct guess list is not working. I think it's just the plus isn't working. Maybe try going back to the little shovel operator.
Okay.
Or there's also a method for strings called concat, like concatenate. But I think maybe this will work. It's something wrong with like adding the letters. The letters just aren't getting added to the yeah, there we go.
Did it actually run again?
Yep. So they at the bottom, I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me see your screen. There. So
Okay. So there are no failures now, right?
exactly. So perfect.
Okay.
There we go. So I guess
Go back to the spec.
There we go. So we got no failures. So I guess do you want to do like one more spec?
Sure.
And then unfortunately I've got to get going relatively soon, but we could do maybe one more and then
Okay.
call it a session.
So I'm trying to figure out where we are, where we left off in the spec.
So yeah, so we did the incorrectly. Yeah, they're sort of not very good with spacing here. So it looks like the next pending is on line 54.
Line 54, okay. So, oops, comma as well.
Correct. So this is going to be, it looks like the case where people guess the same letter twice.
Yeah.
So we want to not add the same letter.
Yeah, it looks like I'm getting this issue again where text isn't showing up.
Oh, that's terrible. That must be, I think it's a bug in Cloud 9.
Yeah, let me see if it, do a refresh real quickly and see if it gives me some valid error messages. Okay, now I see something. Let's see, failure expect at game guesses to equal A. So I kind of know what's going on, but I'm trying to really kind of mechanically be able to look back at something and say, well, what about the spec tells me? It looks like we tried to add an A twice.
Exactly.
But from the spec language itself, let's see, line 54 is what we removed. It says does not change correct guess list. And game guess A, let's see, expect. Oh, so we're guessing A, and it's expecting that the game guesses is going to be still equal to A. And so that's...
So basically, if the letter's already in the guess list, we don't want to add it again.
Right, yeah. It's a little bit sort of putting those pieces together. I understood that immediately when I read the error messages, but in cases where it might be a little fuzzy, I like to kind of go, well, let me look back at the spec. How did I deduce that, right, from just what's in the spec?
Totally, that's the best way for sure. It's like if you ever, yeah, if it's not clear, like if you actually just read the spec itself, then it's sometimes helps a lot.
Yeah, I think next time what I'll do is go read the spec in detail and see if I can make sense of what it's telling me. And then it's going to be a lot easier because it's harder. If I were to just develop this without a spec, I think I could do it like much more quickly than I am at looking at the spec and trying to figure out what question it's trying to answer or get me to code.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, because it's tricky because at the same time you're basically learning RSpec as you go, right? Whereas, like you said, if you just coded this, you could probably do it pretty quickly, but because you're sort of learning as you go, it definitely is tricky.
Yeah. So let's see. So if guess letter, so somehow we need to check. So it says if we're duck. Okay. So here we're checking to see if it's included in the word. So somehow we have to check to see if that letter is already in guesses.
Exactly.
Yeah. And should we do that sort of above this?
So yeah,
Or
you could say like so like in Ruby, the way to break out of a method is to like return something early. So you
yeah,
can like explicitly return like a message or like just false or something if the guesses already includes the letter.
you could do something like return uh, if is it can you write it this way?
Yeah,
Return if
exactly.
um,
Totally valid Ruby.
see return if uh, guesses is it guesses dot include oops letter.
Yeah, exactly. So that should at least make this spec pass, and then we can see what the other ones are. But yeah, there you go. Perfect.
So I passed it. Yeah, this whole thing of looking at a test spec and trying to figure out what it is saying first,
Yeah,
and
it's
then figuring out what it's trying to tell me, give me hints about what it's trying to tell me to code is going to take some getting used to.
it's definitely a very different approach. I think. And I think it was very controversial when like Kent Beck and the others came out with this whole philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of people who don't like it because it's true. It does slow you down a lot. I guess the idea is maybe like it prevents future regressions or it saves you time in the future from not having to debug your code as much or something. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but it is definitely probably like for a lot of people a huge change in sort of the workflow they're used to.
Well, you know, the value, the biggest value for me that I see out of it is that you end up with a set of test cases that you can run against your code. So in that sense, I'm very much in tune with this is the guy that developed Ruby on Rails.
Right.
He got into a big falafel with like Ken and some other people around. Basically, his statement was TDD is dead.
Yeah. I was reading a little bit about that.
Yeah,
There's a
and I think I subscribe to his policy or his belief, which is, well, the most important thing is that you end up with a set of test cases that
right.
you can run consistently and have confidence that you haven't broken your code. He does
Exactly.
not necessarily agree with, I have to write every test case before I write a single line or write a test case before I write a line of code. He doesn't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
And I think for me right now, it's just that this whole spec language is going to be is just a big learning curve for me. So I can't sit. It's more easily for me to sit down and write code than it is for me to figure out. Wait, what? I need to first decide whether something is in existence or not. You know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
So
totally.
I would even think to write some of the tests that you have to write, you know, to sort of get started. So you know, keep an open mind until I get so comfortable with it that I decide that it's either for me or it's not for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I tend to agree with him too as well. Like it's the most important thing is having good tests before you deploy your code or before you refactor. So like exactly if this works for some people, like writing them beforehand and writing as you go, that's one way of doing it. But I guess maybe for some people it's just that like it guarantees like all your scenarios are covered, I guess, because you can't really write the code without the spec this way. But
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
it's
It prevents you from being lazy and saying, oh, I'll write them later.
yeah, exactly. It's sometimes easy to forget a case or forget to test something, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
yeah, it's a steep learning curve for sure because it's not really when you read the specs, it doesn't really look like Ruby code. It's sort of like a new language.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the RSpec DSL is like sort of it can be cryptic at first for sure.
Yeah. So what's your so you're doing an internship. What was your previous exposure to Ruby and Ruby on Rails and doing testing like this?
Not much so. Like before I started, I actually studied chemistry in university, and then decided to become a programmer instead. And about like a few months ago, basically, I joined a team as a junior Rails developer. And so they do stuff like this. So they use RSpec. We use RSpec for our app and sort of a little bit of pair programming, but it's not really the same style. Um,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I was saying, it's still like so much to learn, and the course is really interesting because sort of seeing how software is built like from start to finish is what I'm kind of interested in.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's I definitely remember kind of the first couple weeks of like doing TDD. It's like, oh my god, this is so slow.
Did you have any? I mean, I know you were in chemistry before, but did you
Yeah.
go take some college courses or in
No,
Ruby
it's
and
all just
software development?
online stuff. So I did like I did the CS50 on edX or whatever the famous one, and some stuff on like Udacity and Udemy and all those like courses online.
Right.
I spent like a few months sort of learning that kind of stuff, and then basically just like in Montreal right now, there's like sort of a really good Ruby community, and I was really lucky, sort of met the right people at the meetups, and like everything worked out.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, you're off to a good start then.
Hopefully, yeah. So, are you interested in like becoming a Rails developer specifically, or are you just doing this for more of the SaaS, like building SaaS products aspects?
No, I want to become a Rails developer.
Nice.
So I've done a little bit in the past, but it's been like more than a year, and I'm just now coming back. I didn't have any exposure to web development at all. I have a computer science degree from many years ago, before object-oriented languages were even around.
Well,
So
okay.
I took a course in Java,
Nice.
and I picked it up, and it was fine. Java is very different than Ruby. And then I went and joined a boot camp
Oh, nice.
where we learned Ruby and we learned Rails and we learned some JavaScript and HTML and CSS and all that stuff. But it's you move at such a fast pace
Yeah.
that 1 week you're doing JavaScript, and then it's like, okay, now we're going to learn Ruby. Oops, now let's drop that and kind of continue it a little bit by doing Ruby on Rails, and boom, 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 and you're done, and you're left at the end of this going, wait, what did I just do?
Yeah. That can be. I can see that being very like overwhelming.
Very overwhelming. And then I said, you know what, I really need to get a background in CSS and HTML and JavaScript. So I went off and took a couple of courses in that, where I got a little bit more steeped in it and felt, all right, this is all familiar now. I kind of get it. I've learned a little bit more.
Yeah.
And now I'm circling back around to say, oh yeah, all that stuff I learned in the boot camp at this rapid pace.
Yeah.
Let me introduce myself to that and get my arms around it. We talked about TDD and we got exposed to it.
Right.
But it was like, then they just said, okay, well, keep going, and no one continued doing TDD because it's just
it's so hard for sure.
Too difficult. It takes discipline, and you have to be forced almost to do it or really, really want to do it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's tricky for sure because like it's just harder to boot camp because everybody learns at such a different pace and comes from different backgrounds and stuff. So it can be hard to move so fast.
Yeah, it's definitely very fast paced, but it is good exposure. Got introduced to it.
Yeah.
Now I need to go refresh myself and learn this stuff in a little more depth. I still look at Ruby sometimes. It's getting better now that I've looked at it for the second time for this course, and sometimes I look at the language and I go, wait, what is this statement doing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird language for sure, especially if you're used to like scripting languages or Java or something. It is a little bit like weird, I think. But that's awesome though. I mean, if it's something that you like doing, it'll work. Like everybody who likes Rails, like it's one of those things. People see that you like it and then sort of latch on.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool language. Well, listen, I don't want to hold you. It sounded like you needed to run.
Yeah, I gotta get running. It's like supper time here, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks for the pairing session. It's been great.
Yeah, well, thank you. I felt like I slowed you down, but
no. That's exactly what pair program is about. Like back and forth and explaining and learning. Like it's what it's all about.
Well, let me see if how will you get a copy of the session that we did here?
I think the past couple ones I've done, I get a little pop up once I stop the broadcasting, and then I get a link to the YouTube thing.
Right, but how would you actually get it? I mean, I would get it if I initiated the session, but since I initiated the session, you won't get a pop up, will you?
I'm not sure how. I don't know. I guess to be honest, I think I will because in the past, like when I was the sort of like host or whatever, quote unquote, I think it'll work. So, and I mean, worst case scenario, if it doesn't, I can just like do another one of these for another project. So no big deal.
Okay, I just wanted to see, I'm checking real quickly to see if there, I thought there was some way that from one of these windows where I could actually click on something and it would show me what the Google link was going to be, and I could post it in the chat session so that you could have it. But I'm not sure where that is now.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, wait, maybe it's on the Cloud9. Let's see, is there something here? Then I'll yeah, I don't even see anything here where I can get the Google session. Anyway,
Oh, whatever.
what was your first name again?
Kira.
Kira.
Yeah.
Kira, right?
Yeah, Kira.
Okay, Kira. So if I do find out where it is, I can like post it on the glitter session or whatever, and I'll just try to look you up. Is your name like at Kira or something?
Yeah. My name is I think it's just my name, Kira McLean. In the I'm in the Slack channel. I'm pretty sure I'm on the Getter, like the discussion there. So yeah, that'd be perfect. You can probably find me there.
Okay, I'll see if I can find you there. If I do find it, and just post a message for you.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, if I have any issues, I'll get in touch with you as well. Like if something doesn't go as expected and I don't get the link, then I can probably find you on the Getter, or are you on the Slack?
I'm on the Getter thing, and it's Jet A Martin. So
Okay.
I think you can do a search for somebody by typing in their partial name, and it will bring it up, and you can.
Okay, perfect. I can just do that then.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.